Hey again, everybody. This is another installment of the IronHike Endurance Series podcasts. Today I have a special guest and an IronHike ambassador, Dan Kosick. Hi, Dan.
Hello, everybody.
And with us also we have two co-founders, Dan Allen, Dan.
How you doing?
And Dr. Scott Festa. Dr. Scott Festa, you may remember as the first non-finisher and the first finisher of Olympus Mons. Our longest event in our event series. So with this, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and show some photos of Dan from two places. So these are the photos of Dan on you guys can see this, right? On our website. These are really cool photos. Dan approached me and we had conversation about him being an ambassador to our brand, and that was a really cool thing. And so we dedicated a page and a section to him on the website. And then I have some series photos. Tell me if you guys can see these. These are photos of Dan involved in the series just last month. I think you were doing. Were you doing double dome, or were you? I don't remember. Yeah, double dome. That's the 24-hour event. There you are, finished with your hat. There's a cookie in there somewhere, and your trekking poles. There you are, getting it done. I have some really cool videos of you making Danimal sounds. I won't show those here. And then here we are at the beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Let's see here. All right. So with that, Dan, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into endurance events. And you have quite an interesting story, and you have quite a few accomplishments. I think maybe some world records. I'm not sure. So go ahead.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, my story. So I'm a childhood cancer survivor. At the age of 15, I was playing 3 sports a year in high school, and I had this pain that wouldn't go away. And eventually, after some biopsies, they determined I had a malignant tumor growing in my nerve, and it resulted in an amputation of my right leg above the knee and about 6 months of precautionary chemotherapy. I always tell people I think the chemotherapy was more of an ass kicker than my amputation. But I came back from that, and I really wanted to play lacrosse again. And that was sort of my return to athletics and sports. But in the meantime, I also found out a lot about adaptive ski racing and sort of fell in love with that. And I ended up making the U.S. team in 1997.
Wow.
And competed in the 98 Nagano, Japan Paralympics and the 2002 Salt Lake City Paralympics. Had a fourth. My best finishes were 4th place in both those Paralympics. I never improved on that 4th, but I gave it my all. And I knew it was time to move on after that. And so I retired from skiing. I started coaching ski racing. I married my high school sweetheart. We settled down. I finished grad school. And I thought I was pretty much going to be done with athletics until a friend convinced me to do an obstacle course one day. He said, let's do a Tough Mudder. And I hadn't been running in a while. I was staying active. So it took me I'd say almost 2 years to get to the level I felt like I could complete one Tough Mudder, which was like a 10-mile obstacle course and some mud and some, like 20 some obstacles. It was terrible. It was a terrible experience. My leg broke.
Wow.
My corneas got scratched from so much mud in my eyes. But as soon as I finished, I said, I need to do that again because I know I can do it way better. And I'm going to get better at this. So I started doing them multiple times a year. And then it became where I became a Tough Mudder ambassador. And then someone introduced me to World's Toughest Mudder, and they call it like toughest. There's an 8-hour event that I did a couple of times, and then I did Worlds twice, which is a 24-hour event. And in 2017, I think there's no official records, but I think the only above the amputee that's ever completed 50 miles in less than 24 hours at World's Toughest Mudder in outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, which was an amazing experience. And it was right around my 40th birthday. Wrapped up obstacle course racing, and obviously we got hit by COVID soon after that. But I was getting into trail racing and running, trying to get up into the 30 to 50 mile trail runs at that time, which is hard to do as an above knee amputee. I'm not gonna It isn't easy. It kicks my butt. And that's sort of why I love it, because it's like one of the hardest things I ever done is just run, and then running on trails. But it feels great, and I love being out there. And then eventually I started just doing a lot of endurance hiking. As I aged, I realized like I might have to realize like I can't always run. So I thought hiking would be great. So I started traveling around the country and even the world. I climbed a 20-foot or 20,000-foot volcano in Ecuador in
Wow.
2018.
Was that on the Inca Trail, or what trail was that?
That's Cotopaxi,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and which is the second highest peak in Ecuador. And I did that for a fundraiser and to bring awareness to an organization called ROMP, which helps gets prosthetic devices to amputees in third world countries.
Very cool.
I did other long events. I like to do a lot of things in 24 hours or less. That's sort of my goal right now. Is every year I do at least one or two things in 24 hours or less. So, for example, the Pemi Loop is one I did in 24 hours. Rim to rim to rim at the Grand Canyon is another one. Devil's Path, Prezi Traverse. You know, these are all things that I like to pick and just say, you know what, I'm going to go up there and I'm just going to go do it and drive home and get it
So
done.
wait, you did the Prezi Traverse? That's the one that follows the Appalachian Trail over the Franconia Ridge and all that?
Actually, the Franconian Ridge one is the Pemi Loop, the Pemi Wasset range there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Pemi Loop is actually probably the hardest one I did. It was 32 miles in length, but it was I think it was about 14,000 feet in gain. But
Yeah.
you know, it's pretty rough terrain
Yes.
up there. Yeah. So I loved it so much. I go back usually every year and do at least some of it with friends because I like to share that experience with others. Because that area of our country, I don't think people realize how beautiful the whites are.
Yeah, the White
Um,
Mountains are amazing.
yeah. So you know, that's where I'm at. You know, I got two older daughters, one in college, one graduating. I like to follow them around. One's going to be a college athlete. So I'm not like a professional athlete. I love just growing old and still kicking ass. And that's sort of what I do. Live life without limitations and getting outside. That's pretty much my motto there.
Yeah, man, it's exciting to have had you join us as an ambassador and also at our event series. And I'm trying to remember how we met each other. I think it was on Instagram, and I think you might have been shopping for an ambassadorship at one time, right? Weren't you an ambassador of another brand, and suddenly you weren't? And how'd that work?
Yeah, well, my Tough Mudder experiences and then getting into hiking, I did a lot of work and became an ambassador for the brand Merrill. So I was in a lot of their advertisements and things for a while. It was a great partnership, and the truth is, you know, marketing and the way things are in my age, and not like I'm not trying to say I'm old, but like I'm not really into the TikTok and all that. And they're starting to say, you know, we need more of these kinds of things for reels and TikToks. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, you know, in my mid 40s, I'm trying to work, and I don't know if I have time to go out in the woods and dance in the trees and do all these other things. So I sort of, so I was sort of like separated myself, not from the brand because of anything bad, but it was just like, you know what, you know, this has been a great experience, like having a sneaker sponsorship in my 40s, which I never ever thought would ever work out like that. And then other brands such as Leki Poles, which I still have a good partnership with, and you know, I use them as an amputee. Poles are a crucial sort of
Right.
necessity for me for any kind of hiking and trail running. So those poles are, you know, a lifeline to me basically when I'm out there.
You know, it's interesting. I watched you pass me multiple times in my own effort, and I fell short, but I finished the distance, but not in the allotted time. So I'll be back. But I remember seeing you multiple times, and I remember being amazed at the gait that you have. It's kind of weird. It's like all over the place. Like it's like hard to the left, hard to the right, and then the poles were like really part of the whole mechanism, right?
Yep. It's just it's a flow. Like, so when you hand someone who's never used trail poles and tell them to use them, they usually feel awkward and they get in the way. But when you learn how to make them work for you, they can conserve a lot of energy. And they definitely, I mean, when you're going out there for a long time and I'm using my lats to push down on those poles over and over again, you know, it's a full body workout in some ways, but it definitely helps save energy in my lower half.
Yeah.
And you know, it prevents a lot of falls, I should say. And one fall, not that like I don't think I'm going to get hurt from falling, but like that's a lot of energy when you go down, tumble, roll, which I do a lot. You know, I always say I'm an amateur athlete, but a professional faller. But when you go down and you got to get yourself back up, you know, that's a lot of energy you don't want to keep doing over and over again over 24 hours. So those poles help a lot without, so you don't go down on your knees or even on your face sometimes.
So of course, you know, I think one of the big curiosities also is tell us about that leg that you brought with you. That's not your everyday one, right? This a special one.
Yeah. So I have an everyday leg that works great and gets me by for, you know, the things that I need to do on a daily basis. I could probably jog across the street with it. I could hop on a bike if I needed to with it, but I really couldn't do anything like a long trail run or anything on it, obviously. So I have a special prosthesis. You know, a lot of people say the blade. They like to say the running blade. That's sort of just I don't know, a term that people throw out there. There's a bunch of different names, of different brands of different kinds of feet for running on a prosthesis. And I basically have a tire tread that's epoxy to the bottom of the carbon fiber blade that you would call, which helps protect that carbon fiber because on trails and those rocks and stuff, a regular sneaker tread would just be torn up real quick. The knee is actually really simple, a little bit of hydraulics in there, but not a lot of moving parts. So I would never use that knee for an everyday leg because it's not a natural gait with that knee, but it's simple and it does what it needs to do when I'm out there. And basically, if I'm out in the middle of the wilderness or doing something, I don't want things breaking and I don't need extra weight on me. So it's as simple as it can get, which makes it actually a more affordable leg compared to my everyday leg, which thankfully I got insurance that helps cover these things. The running leg is actually sponsored by my prosthetic provider, a Step Ahead Prosthetics in Long Island, New York, and they've been supporting me since, you know, for 30 years now. So they help make this leg for me because insurance don't pay for these legs. The socket is like a suction socket, so it literally is held on like if you know, suction fit. If I trip up or get that caught under a root, it sounds like I rip a big loud fart sometimes because I break the suction. and and my family knows, like, I'm always like, that's my leg, and then my family's like, sure it is, and people around me are staring at me like what was that from, you know? But I do have a thin belt I wear with it because I learned my lesson a few times, especially out there. Like, I don't want to lose my leg, you know, going down a rugged terrain and have it pop off, and I've sort of had that happen, so I'm like, I got to wear a belt and make sure it doesn't come off. So that's that leg, and it's a tank. You know, it can get wet and everything. You know, I got to clean it up after I use it, but if I maintain it, it lasts pretty well and needs an oil change every once in a while, and that's about it.
Yeah, man. It was exciting to see how, like I said, the gate was like out of this world, like way to the left, way to the right, trekking poles just flying everywhere. And I think one of the people that part of our crew, I think one of the spouses said, I saw him fall.
Oh,
I said,
sure I did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but I'm sure he got right back up and then passed me. So
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't the first time he fell.
No, like I
You know, but
said,
like, oh my God, he fell. You know.
amateur athlete, professional faller.
So I wanted to just touch on something you said about sponsorship and so when I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, hang on a second, girl. When I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, right, there was a person who was hiking it, and I was doing it. I tied St. Jude's Children's Research to mine, and this one hiker who is kind of big in the hiking community. She was like, you really need to vlog. You know, people pay for like my hostels, they pay for this, they pay for that. You know, and then I'm like, yeah, you know, no offense. I'm a 50-year-old guy. I'm not a 25-year-old girl in Ranger pants, you know, shaking her butt. No one's gonna pay to see that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was she's like, no, you'll have like you know, 50,000 followers in no time. And I think maybe I on my YouTube channel, I think maybe I have like 400 followers, and it never, you know, because again, I'm not a 25-year-old girl shaking her butt on camera. So, and she's super nice. Like that wasn't her MO, but
Yeah.
still, yeah.
I'm sort of past that. When I was a ski racer, I mean, I was begging left and right for sponsorships, and I couldn't. It was hard to get one, and that was before social media and stuff. But then I just got older, and I don't want to say I didn't care, but like it was just doing it because I enjoyed it and just enjoying life, and some things just fell in my lap that I will be internally grateful for. Companies saying, we would love to have you wear our product, and it will help cover some costs for some of these events. And it was great while it lasted, and I probably could have made it last longer, but that wasn't my, that's not where I'm at right now in life and stuff.
So yeah. So tell us about your experience with us. Like, why did you decide to come hang out with us and be an ambassador? And then tell us about the day, like when you showed up, your first impression, and everything like that.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I really enjoy finding at least 1 or 2 times a year I can do something for about 24 hours straight. The misogi, they call it, like where you just sort of test yourself. You're not sure if you're going to be able to make it or not. I mean, I knew I was not going to die, but like, can I really do something difficult in this period of time? And so when we first connected, I actually was committing to the June event, and I was all for the June event and excited. And I actually had a couple of friends that were going to try to join me in the event in June.
Some of your friends showed up anyway. Trail mom.
Yeah.
Trail
One of
mom.
them showed up, and the other
Yeah.
one, I don't know, I guess he needs to have his hand held at everything. But he was like, "If you're not doing it, I'm not doing it." So, anyways, I coach girls lacrosse, and never in a million years that I think we were going to go to states, because we had never won our section in the last 18 years. And I started coaching with a friend of mine, and heck, we went to states, and our game was that day, and I could not bail on our girls, and my
I
daughter
was so
played.
happy for you, man. You're like,
Yeah.
I can't come. I'm like, this is not anywhere near as important as that, man. Go.
Yeah. So I rescheduled, and definitely I was a little nervous about the October event, because my daughter is actually she's a soccer player, and that's her soccer season, and she's a senior in high school, and I really didn't want to miss anything, and I was like, I'll do whatever I can to make it to the October event. And everything aligned right, the stars aligned, and she didn't have a game or anything, and I didn't miss anything. So I traveled out there, and I didn't know what to expect. I was like, I know what the Northeast is like. I know what the conditions at a ski hill in the Northeast are like. So I just figured I'd be going up and down a ski slope. And I figured there'd be people around, and I'm social enough to make friends and say hi. So I was like, I'll just figure it out when I get there. And luckily I've done enough of these distances and things where I knew, like, this is what I pack, and this is what I might need. So I wasn't too nervous about, like, do I need to bring this or that? I pretty much have my go-to supplies that I like to use, and showed up, and you guys were amazing, very welcoming. Probably, I definitely say it exceeded expectations. And I'm not saying like I had low expectations. I really felt like you guys put on a really professional event. Um, your I's were dotted, your T's were crossed. Things were on time. The venue is gorgeous. The supplies and the things that you guys offered to everybody if we needed things. It was just an awesome event, and then it was just a big enough group of people where you just made friends with pretty much everyone that was there. And my thing, Quadzilla was there, and he was definitely traveling faster than me. So if I passed you, John, he probably passed you twice as fast or
He
more than
did.
that.
No,
Yeah.
I did the calculations. So I tried to get Everest done, and I missed it by, I don't know, 8 laps. And so I did those 8 laps late on the next morning. But Quadzilla, I did the math. For every lap that I did, he did 2.75 laps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was astonishing.
yeah. And and I thought, you see the same person face to face on this hill, and you're going to be seeing them for, if they're a 12-hour person, you're going to see them for at least 12 hours or maybe 24 or whatever, how long you're there. And I was like, we got to come up. And I was seeing Quadzilla's face, Jack, right?
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, Jack. I was seeing Jack's face, over and over. And I said, hey, Jack, I said, instead of the awkward, like, hey, again, I was like, let's say a word. Like, it'll be my turn to pick a word. And then when we cross paths, you have to use that word in a sentence, and then you pick the next word. So we did that for the whole time I was there. So
That's
like,
hilarious.
we just, I'd just say something random like carrots. And then when then the next time we crossed, we were facing each other, he'd be like, I had carrots for dinner. And then he would yell out like, I don't know, something like the moon. And then I would have to see it and be like, I can't wait to see the moon tonight. And then, like, and pick a word. And that was our thing going, like, sort of make time pass. And when you get tired and you're working hard, you start to be like, what was that word? Oh no, what, like, and then,
Wait, there's Jack. What was the word?
yeah. Yeah. So it brings a little excitement to it, and stuff. And there was just some amazing participants that had everyone there had an amazing attitude. There was no one there that I felt was like, that shouldn't have been there or just brought like any kind of negativity to it. Like everyone was smiling, encouraging. It was just amazing to be around those people and all the abilities that were there. You could have been a world-class athlete and felt like you're getting your butt kicked and you belong there. And you could have been just a person who's trying to break a boundary or set a new personal best with something, and you belong there also. And you didn't have to be a world-class athlete.
Yeah, man, that is exactly the vibe that we really strive to bring, that we try to build an experience for everybody. Like, and I mentioned it in the last conversation we had, that Jack Jones, Quadzilla, world-class athlete, one of the handful of people in the world that has done a single season, single calendar year, triple crown, right? Just a fantastic guy. And then my wife, right, who is trying to get a 5K in 3 laps with their friends. And both of them push themselves way past the limits of their comfort, right? And so that's what they had in common, even though she's not a world-class athlete and Jack isn't a 50-something-year-old woman, right? But what they had in common was that they're pushing themselves beyond their own personal limits. And I thought that's the kind of the unifying thing with everybody there. And you can feel it. You can feel it from everybody, right?
Yep.
Yeah, man. So are you joining us for a multi-day event in 2025?
So it's there in my head. It's one of those things where I can't events. That's one reason why I like to do the individual things, like plan something out and do it individually, because I can make it work around my schedule. Because the truth is I'm active, I'm healthy, I get out and I do things every day around me, but like to schedule my life around events is tough. So like I can't say, oh yeah, no doubt about it, I'm there in June. But it's there on my calendar, and as June approaches, I know I'll be in shape to do it. Like, I mean, I'm always going to stay active and be ready for any fun, challenging thing that crosses my path. It's just like, with coaching and family and life, I want to make sure there's other things that are just, more priorities than me doing a sort of a selfish thing to make myself feel good for 24 hours.
Well, we're always happy to have you. You can come for any one of the events in the 2 series, the one in June and the one in October right now. You're talking about that Franconia region, right? So we're trying to find another. We're in early stage negotiations with an area nearby, and so we're excited about that. We're trying to expand next year. So, what was the other thing I wanted to ask you? So what about you? You weren't there through the night, right? Did you hike at night? I don't remember.
Yeah, I finished 16 hours or so. I think it took for me to finish the distance and elevation for the double dome. So it was like I want to say like a 2 o'clock in the morning finish.
Oh, that's
And I
right.
remember, yeah, and I remember saying like at first, like, no, I don't need a cookie. I'm good. Like I'm packing my stuff up. And then I remember I got all my stuff packed and I was like, you know what? I'll take that cookie. I'm really hungry for a cookie right now. So I grabbed that cookie, and I probably should have just stayed, because I would have loved to see some people like in the morning light, because I know personally, I know every time I've ever done anything that brings it through the morning light, like there's just a nice, amazing energy you get when the sun rises and you're still like pushing for something. You get this natural energy high from it, and I would love to see that for the people out there. But I packed up my stuff, and my car ride home, which should have been probably about 3 hours, I think took me 7, because I stopped. I don't know how many times I stopped. I was like, I need to take a 10-minute nap, and I pull over and I sleep for 10 minutes, and then I drive, and I thought I had enough energy and slept for another 10 minutes. Like that event kicked my butt. Like there was 3-4 days going up and down stairs. I was like, yeah, that's not so easy any right now. But you know, I loved it. It hung around for a few days.
Yeah, so like as you know, one of the things that we pride ourselves in is you can tent the night before, you can tent when you're done. You could stay an extra day if you want to at no additional charge, right? Just to kind of cheer people on. Like that's the whole notion of community that we like to have. So the one question I want to ask you is you've done a lot of these 24-hour things throughout the world, right? Different places, different things. Where do we rank in terms of how hard it is? You know, how hard was this for you?
Well, I think this comes down to what is your discipline and your motivation as an individual. If you show up with someone who you're competitive with and you wanted to push yourself and you have someone there and you know that you think is going to push you, you know that some people need that. Other people have that self-discipline and motivation to know like what they set a pace or they know what their goal is going to be in a certain amount of time. So I knew I could finish the double dome in less than 24 hours. And then I honestly, because I had never been there, I didn't know what kind of pace I would have, but within probably 5 laps or so, I was like, okay, I got some goals now, and I know what it's going to take to finish in 16 hours. You know, and that like so I set that goal. You know, and as it comes closer, you reevaluate if you need to. So I think the best thing about this event is like you have an opportunity to make it what you want it. Like you can show up and say this is my individual goal and push it. And it's hard to do that because you don't have the people around you like trying to run the same time with you unless you show up with that person. And you can do that. You can show up with a team. You can show up with 10 people that want to do the double dome at the same time and turn it into your own little group race if you wanted to, I guess. But when it comes to that terrain and that distance, like it's a challenge, and that's what's like so nice about this is that it works for everybody. I don't want I don't want anybody to be personally, I wouldn't tell anybody to be afraid of it. Um, because like you're gonna put yourself into something over your head that you just can't handle. But I also think you could show up and be like leave that and be like that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done by doing it because you have those opportunities to do those distances and elevations like 14,000 like my thing was 14,000 feet of gain basically, and that's a lot of gain in 24 hours. Like, I
No,
mean,
no flat
no,
miles.
no, it's all up and down. I mean, eventually you realize you enjoy going up more than going down, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
everyone's different, right? So some
yeah,
people like the downhill better than the uphill. I'm in that list.
yeah.
But the other thing I want to ask you is harder than you thought it was going to be
Um,
because you do a lot of this.
Yeah, I don't want to say harder. I just want to say it was what I wanted and then what I needed. You know, like it wasn't like I actually honestly was thankful that I didn't have to deal with like all the roots and rocks that you normally find out like
On a trail
on
run.
on a trail run. I mean, I definitely would have felt a lot more if those things were out there. So it's quite smooth, which was nice. But I mean, that top part is pretty steep, you know, and you get to it and you're like, this is work. And I'm one of those people that the harder it gets, the more I sort of like it.
Yeah.
So as it keeps going, it like you saw, like I probably started off a little quiet and then all of a sudden there's like a sighting of a Danimal and then next you know there's only Danimal around and like it's one of those things where like that's what I enjoy, like when I love the part where it's just sort of a gradual and then all of a sudden the hardest part's at the very end and I'm like, yeah, bring it on, like I get
So do you
excited
remember
about
that
that.
first lap? So you're right there in that photograph behind me. It
Yep.
looks pretty tame, right? It looks pretty
Yeah.
moderate and relaxed and pretty flat, even though it's a slight gradual uphill. Once you make that left-hand turn, it starts to get a little aggressive and a little more aggressive. And then when you get to the very end and you can see the summit, it actually gets like almost violent, right? Like that last little bit, right?
It's probably, I would definitely say it's steeper than a flight of stairs, and you don't have that sure footing of like a flat spot like you would on stairs. So,
Yeah.
It's challenging. Yeah. It's a challenging in a lot of ways because like you were saying going down My prosthetic works better. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a little bit more comfortable when it's on the downhill side. So when I'm traversing or going on uneven terrain, and my prosthetic sort of on an uphill side, it like pushes me off. It like sort of catapults me to the side, and that's not really comfortable. And especially if I'm doing it over and over again. So like you start to learn the terrain. That's a nice thing about the event too. Is like you learn the terrain, and I knew like in a short period of time, I was like, okay, I got to start moving over to the left over here, and then to the right over here, and I know there's a wet spot here, and there's some thicker brush here, so don't get tripped up here, and that's I like that sort of stuff, like where I get to plan it all out and sort of make it work for me.
I saw Scott smiling. Scott, in his original attempt and his successful finish of Olympus Mons, literally has done 230 miles on that summit, and so he probably knows that terrain by heart right now.
There is like as you're going, as you pass that, you start to take that right at the very last up by the
Yep.
But right, and then okay, so like right past the pole, there's a flat spot that is this big, and then and you could see up if you look up on the trail, and you can see okay, it kind of there's a false plateau there, and then just right up to the right, there's another flat spot like that big that you can, and it's just these little, and then okay, in between the two signs. Before the last sign, there's one more little flat spot off to the left, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna take those 10-second breaks right on all of those, almost every time. On the times that I wasn't running, I was like, okay, right there, 10 seconds, great, oh, boom, 10 seconds, boom, and boom. So yeah, the terrain, it's right here, man. It's living rent free. In my head.
For sure. So Dan finished a Denali, the first Denali finisher ever. How many laps in was it before you had the terrain memorized, Dan?
I'd say about 10, give or take.
10 laps in, you had it completely memorized, right?
Yeah. You just learn. It's like I want to get to that point. Now I get to that point.
So Dan Kosick, how hard was I got to go back up again? That mental gymnastics. Up, down, up, down, up, down.
So because I've experienced sort of those like distances or over that period of time, for me, I know like I just don't want to. I forget his name. He has a famous quote. He says, "Don't die in the chair." So like, I think the thing I don't ever want to do is just sit down and be like, I can't get up and I'm done, And so my mentality, and that's why I love doing like the 24-hour thing, is because I know I can just keep going and not stop. I may slow down a lot, but I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep going. I can go for at least 24 hours or, something 16 hours, 18 hours or whatever it is, and keep moving. And so when I got down to the bottom, like my head was I'm not going to take a break, and I'm not going to like do this. And then, I'll just 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes to lay down, like in my mind, that's what works for me. My mind is, I know where my drink is. I'm going to take, 2 gulps of this. I'm going to get this many calories in, every loop or whatever. And so it's this bar this time, maybe a chia seed packet or something this time. And it's literally like 2-minute turnaround, but I'm not sitting down. I'm already thinking as I'm heading down, like, what are the few things I want to do and need to do so I can get going again? Because if you sit and think too much, that's where I think bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
So, you just don't want to sit in the chair and take a break and then be like, I don't think I can get up and do this again. And that was my mentality for this. If I was going to go for the multiple days, obviously you're going to have to sit, and that would be new territory for me. And I would have to figure out, how do I wake up, after sleeping for a few hours
and get after it again.
Yeah. And I mean, I've done a couple of things similar, like a long all day hike and then slept and then got up and did another 15 20 miles the next day, and it's not fun, like that starting up again is not easy, but I know in my head that it things get better, and things are temporary, feelings are temporary, certain things
And there's a cookie.
yeah.
There's a cookie.
Yeah. And I mean, if you've never experienced it, it's a little scary and nerve-wracking because you're not sure, is this going to get better, or is my back going to loosen up, or whatever it is. But the more you do it, the more you realize what your body's capable of. And then you just, it's just a moment. It's a moment in time, and it's going to pass, and you're going to get through this. The difficultiness of it or whatever is just a moment, but the memories and the feeling of success lasts forever, for pretty much.
Yeah.
So
look, your story is to me, it's very amazing. You've overcome a lot. You're very humble about it. I think that a lot of people. I think you actually said to me one time that I said, well, I was calling you an adaptive athlete, and you said, no. So it's not really about that. Like, everyone's adapting in their own way to things in their own life. And it was super inspirational when you told me that. And somewhere out there, someone's going to watch this and they have something that they need to overcome. Could be physical and visible, like what you've overcome. Could be something in their mind or in their spirit or in their life that they don't believe in themselves, or whatever their story is they're telling themselves in their head. But they're going to have to overcome. It's in there that they should make a decision to overcome something or to adapt over something, right?
Yep.
So having said that, what we produce is a perfect venue to kind of change your story in your own head about yourself. And so I guess what advice would you give someone that is trying to figure out how to overcome and adapt over something that's been limiting them, whatever that is, physical, mental, spiritual, like, because you've done it and you do it all the time and you do it with such humility. It's amazing.
I think the hard part about it is, I never want to say, like, I truly understand what someone else might be going through.
Right.
Even if we had this exact same disability, it's a different story for everybody. And so for me to say, I know what you're going through, or I know it's hard, yeah, I get it. It's difficult, but I really don't know what somebody else's story is. And it's their own challenge. And if it's the hardest thing they've ever done, then it's the hardest thing they've ever done. And it's maybe different for me. For me, I just wanted to, it wasn't about being an adaptive athlete. Like you said, it was just like, I wanted to be an athlete. And I learned very quickly that, like, if all I did is compare myself to 10-toed freak athletes, we'll say, okay, and like,
Right.
yeah, like I always got my ass kicked, like, I mean, there's no way I'm gonna beat the majority of people out there that are running with two legs on a trail. And that if that's all I needed, or if that's what I needed to feel good, is that I beat someone with two legs, like, I would probably not have a lot of success over and over. I'm not going to win races. So I realized quickly, like, I got to find my internal drive and realize what's hard for me and what's my challenge. And I know when I did something hard and it was an accomplishment for me, like, I know it internally, and I don't need someone else to come up to me and say, wow, that was good, or that must have been tough, or whatever. I know if it was easy or it was hard, and that's good enough for me personally. That's sort of just how I operate, is just like, I know what the internal battle is and the internal struggle is for me, and I know when it was tough, and when it was tough, I walk away with a smile on my face, knowing I had another victory and another sort of cookie in the cookie jar to go use or get whenever I want it, because I just earned it. And if you never get up and try your own challenge and tackle on those things, you'll never experience that confidence. And I'm telling you, it's like contagious. Like, you get one of those wins under your belt, you want another one, and then you get another one, and then you realize you're way more capable than you've ever thought you could be. People cut themselves short all the time.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
they don't realize they're a lot stronger than they think they are. People always tell me, I wouldn't be able to do it if I were you. Like, if I were you and I had to go through what you had to do, I couldn't have done that. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, I didn't have a choice. Like, people say all the time, you have great balance. I'm like, well, I have to, or I'm going to fall even more than I do. Like, I mean, like, I don't have a choice. Like, I got to have better balance. Like,
Right.
when you don't have a choice, you learn to do it. And that's the way it works, but
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's a very inspiring story. A lot of people come up to me and say, "Wow, that guy is amazing," and then, like you said, I don't think I could do that. And it's but like you said, my favorite quote from you was, "Everyone's adapting in their own way, and everyone's overcoming." I like to call it that internal story, right? I can't, the people, we like to say change your story, and then we like to be a place where you can come change your story, and you said stack some wins, right?
Yep.
Try something that you've not done before, and that's hard. So, man, we appreciate you today. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, I mean, it's on my calendar. I definitely hope I get out there. It's an event that with my wife is an athlete too, and I would actually love to bring someone like my wife or somebody out there with me and experience it. I think it's a great event to bring someone with, enjoy it with and do it with, because you have a lot of time to share and just share that memory that you can carry on. Like, no matter, I come home and I try to tell my family or somebody what this event's like, and they get it, but like when you get to like really share it with, like, they know exactly what you're talking about when there's that little flat spot or the one wet spot that gets you every time and you slip a little or whatever, they know exactly what it is, or that makes it that much more memorable. So I'm hoping if I get out there, I definitely have someone close to me that I can just do it with and bond with over that period of time.
Yeah, man, you can tent with us the night before and the night after, and not have to do the long drive home or stay in a hotel. You can just chill with us. So,
Yep, that'd be great.
all right, man. Guys, I appreciate you. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome, man. It's a great time, and I hope to see you guys again soon.
We will.
Thank you, Dan.
We'll see you on the
Thank you.
mountain.
Have a good one.
Bye now.